and welcome back to the channel. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you one of my favorite builds of the season. This build is the same build that I used in the Coil Solo that I uploaded a couple months ago. So basically, the whole idea of this is to give a rundown on why I used a lot of the stuff in that video, and to show you how powerful a lot of this stuff that you'll see in this build really is. There's a lot of under-the-radar stuff in this build, a lot of stuff that people just don't even, they look at it and they're like, okay, well, it's that thing, or it's that thing, that weapon. I don't need this. I've got this other thing that's just better. And so I'm hoping this brings some, light to a lot of things that people aren't appreciating right now. Getting into this, Very Bloodline. This is the first weapon that I highly recommend you use for this build. It's one of the strongest weapons in the game. It is pretty new, so not many people have it. Not many people are aware of how good it is. But in everyday builds, especially this one, it's one of the strongest options that you can use in the energy slot. So basically what it does is that when you get multiple final blows with the weapon, you will gain Devour for free. Now what it doesn't say is that anything above a red bar only requires one kill. So you do need multiple final blows on a red bar, or red bar enemies. But anything orange bar and up, it's just a single kill and boom, you have Devour. And of course, every kill after that, as long as you have Devour, will keep refreshing Devour, so you won't run out. And because of the ad clear potential of this build, it's pretty difficult to run out of Devour. And of course, again, just get another kill with Very Bloodline, and you'll get Devour back. Obviously, we're not on Void, so having Devour on a non-Void subclass is just extremely strong, because it's free heals. You're practically unkillable with that, especially with how much DR you get. And because we're on Strand in this build, we have Woven Mail as well. So Woven Mail, 100 Resi, as well as other DR increasing, attributes, which we'll get to later. And then we have Devour to just gain infinite health. Pretty strong. Now on top of this, I do have the Catalyst. I recommend you get the Catalyst as well, because while you have Devour, this weapon will weaken enemies. So again, we're not on Void, so we can't weaken normally. But now we can get Devour and weaken with just one weapon alone. It is only a 15% debuff. It's not like Tract Cannon, which is 30%, or Tether. This is only 15%, but it's better than nothing, so it's pretty good. You get Devour and weaken for free. Pretty good stuff. Now, for the other weapons, technically they are optional. Cataphract I don't recommend as much anymore because it is being nerfed pretty hard. GLs as a whole being nerfed. So it might just be better off running a Strand rocket launcher, or just a rocket launcher in general. It doesn't necessarily have to be Strand. Apex Predator does work pretty well in this, of course, especially for the artifact mods, which we'll get to later. But as for the kinetic Strand weapon, I really do recommend the Incisor, or Incisor, however you say it. Just because it's really strong. It's a trace rifle. It's a really good substitute for a primary. It's basically a primary itself, but it's just slightly stronger. Killing Tally will never run out because of subsistence. It's extremely easy to get ammo, especially on a double special build, because the game will just give you ammo after a little while. It takes if you run out of all of your ammo somehow, it'll take about 15 to 30 seconds to just gain ammo. It'll give you a mag and a bit for free, even if there's no ammo on the floor anywhere. So it is basically impossible to run out now. You just have to do a little bit of waiting. But with the artifact mods and the other things we have in our loadout, a good Strand weapon in the top slot becomes very valuable. Again, you can technically use whatever you want, but a trace rifle is a great option. Now, as for the subclass, this is pretty customizable too, but there's a lot of things in here that make this build very strong, and is what made soloing the Coil very easy. So first off, grapple, extremely strong on Warlock. I do have Mindspun Invocation, which is going to make the grapple a little bit stronger. So basically, when I, grapple to an enemy and do the little melee, it'll spawn threadlings, which obviously boost the damage of the grapple intrinsically a little bit. Technically, it's not necessary to use this. You can use one or the other. aspects, but Fredlings are nice. Fredlings are pretty strong, so I just run them. But yeah, you could run whatever you want here. Then I have Weavewalk, which is absolutely broken. So when you dodge in the air, so it will consume a melee, and you dodge in the air, you'll basically Weavewalk and gain an incredible amount of damage resistance, which does stack with Woven Mail. It also stacks with 100 Resi, and of course, while you're doing that, Unraveling and also your Fredlings can be killing things, or of course I'm using Necrotic Grips, we'll get to soon. Poison will be killing things, so while you're sitting in Weavewalk, tanking all of this damage, with Devour, your passive damage, or passive DOT, is going to be killing things, hopefully, and you'll be healing while in Weavewalk, which is just, it's very, very good for survivability, it's very, very strong, and of course that was one of the main reasons why I was able to solo Coil so quickly, because you can't die. Now for the fragments, honestly, usually I make these so that they're pretty customizable, but I recommend just using these three and not switching between any others. First off, I have Thread of Warding, which gives Woven Mail on a orb pickup. Warlocks can't get Woven Mail intrinsically. This is the only way to do it, so you need this. Then I have Powered Melee Final Blows, grant Strand Weapons Unraveling Rounds. Unraveling Rounds is extremely strong. It's really good passive DOT as well, especially paired with Poison, which, you know, a melee Final Blow is required to get Unraveling Rounds in this case, so you're going to be poisoning things at the same time. And of course it is Arcane Needle, which is also going to be unraveling things, so you'll unravel, poison, and then you'll get Unraveling Rounds on your weapon as well, which is going to unravel other things. It's just really, really strong. And then I have Threaded Generation, which of course everyone uses. You just get grenade energy when you deal damage. So going back to the poison and unraveling, you're going to be getting lots of grapples very quickly, which is nice for just passive damage and to get out of situations or whatever you're using grapple on. Alright. Now, Necrotic Grips. So, Necrotic Grips, obviously poison on melee. It's very, very powerful when paired with Unraveling Rounds, as well as Devour, just because the passive DOT is going to be spreading to everything and proccing Devour when it kills stuff. On top of this, pairing Unravel and Poison with the Weaken on bosses is just good passive damage. There's loads of things that you can pair with this, and loads of things that you can make use of with the Poison. So, yeah, it's pretty good. All of this together so far really, really sells the build. Mods, you just copy this. I have nothing to say about mods. There's no build crafting in this game anymore, so just choose what I use and switch it up how you like. It doesn't really matter. Go with what you want. Now, to end off, artifact mods. This is pretty customizable. Again, if you decide to use Apex Predator instead, you can run the solar mods. So like, well, actually, I guess you wouldn't really make use of these. You'd have to get precision hits, so I guess not. I guess scratch that. But otherwise, if you did somehow get Radiant from teammates, then these can be pretty nice. Otherwise, these don't really matter. The big things, though, that you definitely do want is Unraveling Orbs and Horde Shell. So, Unraveling Orbs, again, is when you pick up an Orb of Power, you gain Unraveling Rounds. So we have lots of sources of Unraveling Rounds. Obviously, it seems like we're overdoing it a bit, but there's a lot of different situations where you might not be able to do one or the other. For example, in a GM, if you're just sitting at the back of the map, you might not be able to go grab an orb, because we don't have shoot to loot, of course. And that's where just using a powered melee works, because obviously Arcane Needle is a ranged melee. It has a lot of range as well. So you will be able to snipe things with that. On top of that, you can also proc Unraveling with the melee itself. So yeah, if you can't for some reason do this, or maybe you don't have a melee, but there's an Orb of Power on the floor, then you can, you know, substitute that with each other. It's basically just a way to keep Unraveling Rounds have like almost permanent uptime, because that's what you want. Unraveling Rounds is just that good that you kind of don't want to go without it. And then on top of that, again, Horde Shuttle. when you damage unraveled targets, you'll occasionally spawn a Fredling. So, not only are we getting Fredlings from Mind Spell Invocation, but we're also getting them from our weapons as well on unraveled targets. And if everything goes right in the build, everything should be unraveled almost permanently, which means you'll constantly be spawning Fredlings, just constantly damaging every enemy and helping out with ad clear, and maybe even with boss DPS as well, because if you've unraveled a boss, Fredlings will constantly be coming out of them and damaging them. So yeah, that's the build. Pretty straightforward, very customizable. Let me know what you think. Of course, I'll leave a link to the solo coil video, which will showcase the build in its entirety. So I may not have gameplay at the end here. Maybe I will, I'm not sure. But otherwise, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Adios.